Today, the caption lines are from Book 2, Canto 2 of Savitri, that is the Kingdom of Subtle Matter. And let us first read out the caption lines along with some more lines accompanying these. Then we'll look at the features of this world, that is subtle matter. First, in the impalpable field of secret self, this little outer being's vast support, parted from vision by earth's solid fence, he came into a magic crystal air and found a life that lived not by the flesh, a light that made visible immaterial things, a fine degree in wonder's hierarchy, the kingdom of subtle matter's fairy craft, outlined against a sky of vivid hues, leaping out a splendor trance and haze, the wizard revelation of its front. So, in this particular canto, Sri Aurobindo has given the description of this world, that is subtle matter or subtle physical, of which we often read in his and mother's writings. And what is it is, we'll just see. This world, as Aswapathy enters into this realm, this subtle world, is a realm of wonder and delight, harmony, power, knowledge, which is in the subtle matter. And this world, this world of subtle matter overtops our physical world. And it has, as I said, it has beauty, harmony, knowledge, power, and also subtler senses, which is far more ranging than the physical ones. It has great expanses. It can freely move. It is not limited as in the physical world of ours. And all here on earth follows the lines of manifestation, which is already mapped in the subtle physical. That is, in other words, to say, whatever happens here in this physical earth are already mapped there, are already taken shape there in the subtle physical world. Otherwise, it cannot happen in this physical world also. And it also forms, this subtle world also forms a protective shield to this material world of ours. And it intercepts the influx of the higher powers coming from above, all those powers and light which are higher. It intercepts, this subtle physical world intercepts and allows only that much to enter into this physical world of ours, to the extent this physical earth can bear it without breaking down, because there are higher powers, higher force coming from above, and if it is not regulated, it can crash everything in this physical world. That is why it is regulated here. So this is a little bit about this world of subtle matter. And now we'll see those lines which we have taken today. What does it mean? What do they mean? In the impalpable field of secret self, this little outer being's vast support, parted from vision by earth's solid fence. In the common view of things, the physical body, our physical body with its mind, life, constitute almost everything of a human being. With the soul, of course, the soul is there, which is within. That is why a lot of people do not know about it, what is soul or self, but it also occupies very important part in this whole being. In fact, the most important part it plays by remaining inside. But generally, what happens, the outer and the visible, whatever we see, whatever is in the outside, these seem to be larger, and the inner is always invisible. Because it is invisible, it is smaller. We do not see the soul or the self. That is why we think it is something very trivial. It doesn't play any role in our life. But on the contrary, in truth, the position is the other way around only, because it is the soul which actually determines everything what the outer, that is the mind, the vital, the seat of all our emotions, likes, dislikes, all these things are determined, all the experiences that we go through are determined by the soul only. So, naturally, the secret self is the greater and vaster than the outer body. Spiritual experience speaks of the soul carrying the body in its hold. In fact, we'll find it in a lot of spiritual books in which experiences are given by those saints or whoever the yogis, that in truth it is the soul which is the true vehicle, which carries, which, please switch off the microphone. Dikita, please switch off the microphone. So what I was someone's microphone is open, please switch it off. Ranjana, your microphone is on, I think. So it is the soul that carries the body, although it is not felt or seen by the physical senses. So, nevertheless, the secret self exists in its operative power, and it supports and makes possible the existence of the outer being. So, although all these things which are subtle, which we cannot perceive, it is impalpable, which we cannot perceive, are there in the subtle world, which protects the physical sheath. And then next, he came into a magic crystal air and found a life that lived not by the flesh, a light that made visible immaterial things. That is, this inner domain of the soul is a world in itself, and it is differently constituted from the outer world. And unlike our physical world, it is free from obscurities and uh, also not limited in its expanse, and lighter, clearer, more enchanting, and more supple in the subtle world. Here also is what it is called. It says that a light that made visible immaterial things. That is, in the physical world, we see through our physical eyes. That is why we cannot see which are not solid objects, which are subtle. But in this subtle world, the light brings into view what is not material and therefore not visible to the physical eye, and it can show or illumine the subtler objects. There are so many objects which are subtle. Only when we go beyond the physical state, and it is possible only through the power of yoga, then it becomes possible for us to have a glimpse of those objects. And in the course, after a lot of uh, discipline, we can come across and understand also what does all these mean to us, all these illuminations of subtler things, subtler objects. A fine degree in wonder's hierarchy, the kingdom of subtle matters, fairy craft, outlined against a sky of vivid hues, leaping out of a splendor, trance, and haze, the weird revelation of its front. So, in this inner hemisphere, there's a hierarchy of worlds, one after another. And leaving the material world, that is the physical world, the first world which we enter into is the subtle matter or subtle physical. That is why we hear or come to read about it that Sri Aurobindo is in the subtle physical. The mother says that if you are sincere, if you truly aspire, then you can go to subtle physical and see and meet Sri Aurobindo. That means that you truly can go if you have true aspiration, because it is not the physical body with which you will go. The subtle senses expands, opens up rather, and you have another sense than the physical ones of five sensory perception. It is the other one which is subtle that opens up, and you can go and see lot of things in the subtle physical, because there everything is not rigid, all are more supple and plastic, allowing more scope to the action of the force operating in it, in the subtle physical. So this is a little bit today on the subtle physical. There are very interesting things which one can go and try to understand, not mentally, of course. The more we open up, then the understanding is given what all these mean. So that's it for the day. Then I would like to share with you something else which is very interesting, and I'm sure this can definitely help us, whoever aspires to progress in this path, because it's an answer coming from Amalda to a question asked by someone, and you will see that how beautifully Amalda has replied to the question. I'll just read it out. First, the question: I do not wish to take up your time, but one thing I cannot stop myself from asking, and that is, if we have Savitri with us, if we keep uttering Sri Aurobindo and the mother's names, if we have their symbols affixed on our doors or are wearing them, if we carry the mother's blessings packet with us, can the hostile forces still come to us and try to lead us astray? See, a very interesting and very important question. Continuing, if yes, then in what and where is the protection from them? Only in our own minds and hearts? One has heard the story of an evil force having taken the form of Sri Aurobindo and daring to come to the mother herself. For her, it was child's play to find it out. But what happens to those on a low plane? For despite the protection the above things offer, if the hostile forces can still dare come to mislead and harm people, where is the progress? Is it that the soul only has to be advanced? Nothing else is really protected? And then is it not also that the more advanced the soul, the greater the attack? Beautiful question, isn't it? Then Amalda replies, first of all, to attempt to rise higher than the ordinary consciousness, superior to the common way of living, is to open ourselves to two kinds of forces: the spiritual ones that come to help our aspiration, and the anti spiritual that endeavor to block it by creating difficulties in both the inner life and the outer. Psychologically, one has to develop the state which Sri Aurobindo describes Aswapathy as having achieved. That is, I'll just quote from Savitri, a wide, unshaken look on time's unrest. So, time's unrest is, of course, not only outside, it is also inside. Our own weaknesses, our own painful responses to ordinary stimuli, our own general indispositions. These are part of what in yoga we call the Prakriti side of us, the nature component. The Purusha side, the self who watches and acts on this nature, has to develop equanimity, stand aloof, unaffected, and offer to the divine all that happens for whatever result the divine may will. The divine's help is always there, but we have to be prepared for hitches to our choice of the higher life. Whether we feel protected or not depends on how receptive we are to the help given to save us from being overwhelmed by the complex of events. Secondly, the mother's central concern is our soul. Her blessings are for the soul's progress. This progress may take place through various experiences which may not in every case look like the divine's favors. Even death may be a part of the divine's grace. Just because we have received the mother's blessings, we cannot expect success in all we do or a straight, flower strewn path. But once we have her blessings, we can be sure that our souls are being looked after. We must constantly keep this faith burning and do our best to let the rest of ourselves cooperate with the mother embraced soul. Thirdly, although we may not keenly realize the fact, we do have our outer being also protected when we have turned towards the mother. Here we must think of all the bad things that might have happened but have not. Since they have not happened, we think that they could not have taken place. Sometimes we find ourselves narrowly escaping harm. Then we become aware of our good luck. But when we escape altogether, we don't realize it. The harm has been avoided from the beginning. We must not doubt that the protection has been present. To put ourselves in the divine's hands and think at the same time that the divine is not with us every moment is irrational. It is true that the divine, by being omnipresent, is with each person, but since we have directly dedicated ourselves to Him, He is with us in a special sense. And if that is so, it is simple logic to believe that many perils are spared us by Him without any sign we might notice. Fourthly, as we are not at all moments in conscious touch with the Mother through our souls, the protection she has granted us can be pierced by the hostile forces. The Mother has often said that the protection is not unconditional. Quite often, it acts in spite of us. But there are bound to be occasions when some part of us goes out of the radiant atmosphere she puts around us, and then an opportunity is given to the hostile forces to break in. Merely to keep Savitri with us or put the symbols of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother upon our doors, or even to carry them and the blessings packets in our pockets does not automatically ensure protection. Of course, their presence may serve to keep us reminded of the divine and thus serve an important purpose. But just a superficial remembrance does not always work. In great crisis, I have seen that the sheer fact of the blessings packet being there is talismanic. But in such crisis, the consciousness also turns spontaneously to the divine, and this helps to make the special power invested in the packet hyper effective. So that's the answer Amanda has given to the question, and it, of course, reminds us once again that we should have the true attitude always, even if you fail at times. But it should not be taken for granted that since I'm having the blessings packet, I am reading Savitri every day, and I have put mother's symbol or Sri Aurobindo's symbol on something in a door of the house, and all these things, they are not the last thing. So, what we should be harping on is the attitude with which we offer ourselves, and at the same time, always try to remember the three tenets which have been given by Sri Aurobindo himself, that is, aspiration, rejection, and surrender. And all these we'll have to do, keep on doing without laxity always. So that's it for the day. Jai Ma.